Last time I talked about feeling sorry for people and how that is, a way of being condescending and disrespectful to them. So somebody wrote in and asked if I would follow up with a talk about empathy. What does it mean to empathize? And she said, I feel sorry for others' sufferings, but I don't look down on them. It is more a feeling of closeness, of sympathy, of empathy, of just being human and in the same old boat of knowing suffering well and knowing how tough some experiences can be to work with. My feeling sorry includes wanting to be of help. It is not a sorry of feeling separate, looking down on, giving up on, or wallowing, but of sharing, of closeness, and wanting to find something that will empower and be of use. Okay? So she's asking if, what she's feeling here, which is empathy, what's the relationship with what I was talking about last time about feeling sorry for people. Okay? So I think there's a difference between feeling sorry for somebody and feeling sorry that they're suffering. Okay? When we feel sorry for somebody, we're up here, they're down there, we're looking down on them with pity and condescension, and you poor slob, you can't get it together, and I feel so sorry for you. And that really destroys a person's self-confidence by pitying them and feeling sorry for them. Okay? But that is different than feeling sorry about their suffering, or feeling sorry that they are suffering. Okay? When we feel sorry that they're suffering, that's basically what it is. It's a feeling of empathy, knowing that others are suffering, wanting them to be free of that suffering, because they want to be happy and be free of suffering just as we do. Okay? So we're not feeling sorry for them, we're feeling sorry that they're suffering. Okay? When we feel sorry that others are suffering, it doesn't mean that we have to take on their suffering and make their happiness our responsibility. Okay? But there's a difference here, because when we study bodhicitta, they're always saying take on the responsibility of leading all sentient beings to enlightenment and alleviating their suffering. The Bodhisattva's way of taking responsibility for others' happiness is very different than ordinary beings' dysfunctional way of taking responsibility for other people's emotions. Okay? And there's a huge difference here. Okay? When we ordinary beings take responsibility for other people's emotions, we're feeling that we're responsible for their happiness and suffering, and that if only we did the right thing, then they would be happy, and that when they're suffering, it's because we did the wrong thing. Okay? So this way of seeing things induces a lot of guilt in us. Yeah, it also induces a lot of anger for others under that guilt, because we're thinking, well, they're unhappy because I did something wrong, and if they only were happy, then I could be more relaxed, so I'm angry at them for being unhappy. And it gets really all tangled up, doesn't it? Okay? And so here we need to really separate out, others' emotions are their responsibility, our actions are our responsibility. Okay? If we act with a good motivation in a kind way, we don't need to question that, even if somebody momentarily is unhappy with what we've done, either because they've misunderstood it, or because we had to point out something uncomfortable to them that they don't like to hear at this particular moment, but it'll sit with them, and then gradually they'll come around and see the sense in it. Okay? So that, when we act with a clear motivation, we aren't taking on responsibility for something that's not our responsibility. In other words, I'm responsible for my motivations and my actions. I'm not responsible for somebody else's responses to my actions, because I can't control their responses. Is this making some sense to you? Okay? Now, when a bodhisattva says, I'm taking responsibility to lead all sentient beings to enlightenment, to lead them to everlasting happiness, that doesn't mean that the bodhisattva is joining in this dysfunctional relationship of, I'm bad if sentient beings are unhappy. There's none of that. But what they're doing there is seeing, okay, I have potential to be of benefit to sentient beings. If I don't use my potential, it's a loss for sentient beings. Yeah, and so I want to use my potential in a wise way, develop it, really, spread it out there so that sentient beings can be happy. Yeah, so that way of taking responsibility leads the bodhisattva to strengthen their love and compassion, strengthen their purification and accumulation of merit, strengthen their study, reflection and meditation, strengthen their generosity and ethical conduct and fortitude and so on. Okay, so that from their side they don't have limitations to being of great benefit to others. So that's what it means that a bodhisattva is taking responsibility for others' welfare. Okay, but do you see? But a bodhisattva at the same time knows, while they're taking responsibility to, increase their own capability and to teach others and so on, they also know that sometimes others are going to be very unhappy with them. And they don't take responsibility for others' unhappiness because they realize their unhappiness is coming through their own negative actions, not through the bodhisattva's actions. And similarly, when sentient beings are happy, a bodhisattva doesn't go, oh, that's because I did it. I made them happy. I must be a good person. Because again, a bodhisattva realizes that, they're just teaching the methods of how to create the causes for happiness. And if sentient beings follow those and reap the result of happiness, it's of their own creation. So a bodhisattva doesn't attribute others' happiness to themselves and get arrogant about it. Okay? Yeah? So there's these kind of subtleties here that we really have to look at and discern. Yeah? So that we correctly understand what is a bodhisattva practice and what's not. Okay?